Protagonists selected Colonel William Bill Utley, US Air Force, because his early reconnaissance drone program leadership offers the most human, high-stakes window into how a toy aircraft overturned Soviet assumptions. You do not spy on the Soviet Union with a toy. For decades, that rule feels absolute. If you want photographs of missile fields outside Plesetsk, you send a man in a pressure suit. If you want confirmation of bomber production at Kazan, you send a U-2 climbing above 70,000 feet, kissing the edge of space. And every commander in the Kremlin believes that only piloted American aircraft can gather intelligence that matters. Why? Because unmanned aircraft are slow. They are fragile. They are short-ranged. They carry tiny cameras that shake apart on takeoff. And to Soviet generals, they are little more than toys, expendable, unreliable, and threatening. For years, this belief stays unchallenged. Even after the shoot-down of Gary Powers in 1960. Even after Washington begins whispering about pilotless reconnaissance. The Soviet High Command laughs off the idea. But in 1962, one man begins to build something the Soviets do not believe is possible. And everything changes. Colonel William Bill Utley is 39 years old, the son of a Kansas mechanic, a soft-spoken officer with a reputation for two things: relentless precision and imagination that won't quit. He joins the US Air Force as a pilot, but it's his mind, not his flying, that gets him noticed. By 1959, he's transferred into a small, barely funded program called Firefly, which later becomes the Ryan Model 147 Rome project. The assignment looks like a dead end. Most officers avoid drones because they don't turn flight hours. They don't turn prestige. They don't make a career. But Utley sees something else. He sees a chance to solve a problem no and aircraft can't. Collecting intelligence over the most defended airspace in the world without sending a pilot to his death. The Cold War is tightening. The Berlin Wall rises in 1961. Soviet TBOM numbers grow from 4 launchers to more than 300 in just a few years. Washington needs eyes on the USSR. But after the U-2 incident, another shootdown could trigger nuclear retaliation. Utley takes the job. He studies the Soviets' radar coverage. He learns which low-level corridors might hide a small aircraft. He examines which altitudes confuse early 1960s interceptors. He works with Ryan Aeronautical to fit a drone, a craft barely 13 feet long, with cameras capable of resolving objects with inches from 70,000 feet. Every part of the mission is a gamble. The range might not be enough. The cameras might fail under vibration. The guidance system might drift miles off course. But the intelligence stakes? Existential. By spring 1962, Utley faces the challenge head-on, proving that something the Soviets mock as a toy can pierce the Iron Curtain and bring back photographs they believe no unmanned aircraft can capture. Utley stands beside a runway in a classified Pacific base. A launch crew surrounds a Model 147B drone, mounted beneath a modified DC-130 carrier aircraft. The drone weighs 1,650 pounds. It carries a camera system worth more than a fighter jet engine. Ready, Utley says. The DC-130 engines thunder alive. 40 minutes later, the aircraft climbs through cloud layers, heading toward a release point 312 miles from Soviet airspace. The Soviets have no idea. The release order comes. 3E201 a drop. The drone falls. Its booster ignites in a white flash. It accelerates to over 500 miles per hour, climbing toward its programmed altitude. Inside the drone, the camera begins its sequence 3 frames per second. Each frame capturing a strip of land the Soviets swear can't be photographed by anything unmanned. But the mission is far from safe. Soviet P-14 All-King radar sweeps the sky, searching for signatures. The drone's radar cross-section is barely larger than a seagull, but at 62,000 feet, one sweep catches a flicker. A Soviet colonel in Murmansk frowns. He sees something, a blip too fast for a weather balloon, too small for a bomber. Scramble 2, he orders. Within minutes, MiG-19s streak upward. Utley listens through static-filled radio chatter from support aircraft. He hears the tension in every voice. The drone has no defensive systems, no pilot, no evasive maneuvers. It flies straight. 1,500 meters, 1,200 meters, 900 meters. The MiGs close in. The Soviet pilots expect an easy kill. But the drone's altitude shifts by just 300 feet, dipping into a radar shadow created by a mountain ridge. The interceptors overshoot, confused by the tiny signature. They lose it. Utley doesn't breathe. The drone presses forward 52 minutes into Soviet territory, covering over 400 miles of restricted airspace. It photographs missile pads, radar installations, submarine pens. Then comes the most dangerous part: extraction. The drone must glide to a precise recovery point over international waters, deploy a parachute at exactly 17,000 feet, and be caught by a recovery aircraft using a hooked line. If the recovery fails, the drone falls into the ocean where Soviet ships are already searching. The signal appears. Parachute deploys. The chute jerks, straining the frame. The drone begins drifting. A recovery helicopter moves into position. A crewman leans out with a 30-foot capture pole. The drone swings, misses. Swings again. Cables tighten. Contact. They snag it. The drone is hoisted aboard. Utley receives the call. The package is intact. He exhales for the first time in hours, but the real shock comes moments later, when a technician cracks open the camera housing. The film is perfect, crystal clear. Every Soviet installation is sharp enough to count bolts. And at this point, we reach our midpoint twist. The Soviets had already issued a statement claiming the drone could not possibly have penetrated their defenses. They were wrong. Mid-roll CTA. If you find this kind of forgotten Cold War ingenuity as fascinating as we do, we'd be honored if you'd hit that subscribe button. We believe these stories of innovation and quiet courage deserve to be told. And by subscribing, you help us ensure they aren't forgotten. What the Soviet High Command doesn't know is that this isn't a one-off miracle. It's the beginning of a revolution. Within months, at least drones fly more than 40 additional missions, each gathering intelligence the USSR insists no unmanned vehicle could possibly gather. Their data maps the growth of Soviet air defenses, identifies patterns in radar activation cycles, and reveals discrepancies between Moscow's claims and actual deployment. Soviet commanders meet in emergency sessions. Reports circulate warning that the Americans possess a new type of reconnaissance system capable of flying hundreds of kilometers undetected. One general scoffs. Another demands to know how a toy plane photographed a highly classified airbase. The internal debates grow heated. By 1964, Soviet engineers rushed to modernize their low-altitude radar networks. They accelerate development of the Soth-RIGO-A surface-to-air missile. They reposition PVO interceptor regiments specifically to counter miniature aircraft. But they are always a step behind. At least drones evolve faster, higher altitude. Faster speeds, new cameras, better jammers. The Soviets can't admit this publicly, but inside the Kremlin, their confidence is shaken. A weapon they dismissed has exposed them, and they know it. Colonel Bill Utley retires quietly years later, his contributions hidden behind layers of classification. No medals pinned in public, no newspaper headlines, just a man who turned an underfunded experiment into a system that reshaped Cold War intelligence. Many of the crews who worked beside him, the DC-130 pilots, the recovery teams, the engineers who tuned guidance systems by hand, served without recognition. Some were only in their 20s. Some never lived to see their missions declassified. But their work saved lives. Their drones prevented pilots from being shot down. Their images informed arms control negotiations. And their success paved the way for every modern UAV in the sky today. To this day, when you see a high-altitude drone glide silently above a battlefield, you're looking at the legacy of a program the Soviets once dismissed as a toy, and a colonel who refused to accept that rule. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. Every click tells the algorithm this piece of history is worth remembering. We're dedicated to rescuing forgotten stories from the archive. If you want to join us on this mission, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Where are you watching from? And tell us if someone in your family served. Thank you for ensuring that Colonel William Bill Utley and the men who flew, recovered, and perfected the Model 147 and do not disappear into silence. They deserve to be remembered.